Lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by UFOs and forced into weight loss programs on the next Nerd Takes.
UHF coming up next. Welcome back to Nerd is the New Cool. My name is Justin, and joined with me is a different John, one of my good friends, Mr. John Wotka.
Hello.
This is a audio format, so you have to nodding at me doesn't work as well as it would
Oh
be.
shit. Okay.
So
Hello,
welcome.
Justin. How are you? Good evening.
There we go. There we go. It's great, man. I'm so excited to have you here to talk about UHF. I know involving one of your favorite people and definitely one of our favorite movies growing up. It's the 35th anniversary of the film UHF. So I'm going to take us back in time. I wonder if you can remember when you first saw this.
I absolutely can actually. I can't remember the exact date or specifically year, but I know I got into Weird Al probably about fourth grade, thanks to Jeremy Small. I remember doing a lip sync with him in Miss Bilker's classroom. I don't remember who the third person was, but at some point within the next year, maybe a year and a half, he let me borrow his tape of it. He had a recording, and it was UHF. And then the second movie was National Lampoon's European Vacation. So I would watch UHF, and then I would clandestinely fast forward to the scene in
Yeah,
National Lampoon's where the German girl
topless shirt.
ex, ex, expo-
I was gonna say it if you didn't say it. So
exposes her. Yes, so that it's a core memory of, but that's how I watched it. I have to thank Jeremy. So probably 1990, 91.
this is one of those movies I was really trying to like think about this that I don't recall when I saw this first. I just have always lived my life knowing this movie incredibly well. So I'm sure I've watched it at your house and Gus's house and certainly my house and who knows who else's houses growing up. Um, but this movie is just like it's so funny to think about how long it's been around, but I consider it a classic, but when asking around with people, I didn't get that same vibe.
No, it's I think that, and it kind of falls on it's how well do you know and like Weird Al Yankovic,
Yeah.
and then how well do you know and like kind of more obscure, goofy 1980s movies that were not super popular at the time, but have then become cult favorites. And because I was an early Weird Al fan, it was always just a part and parcel of being a fan of Weird Al.
Yeah. So how did you rewatch this? Did you
I
did
watch it probably. I probably watch it once a year, so it's not really a.
but
I,
you have it on DVD, you have a Blu-ray? What do you got?
I've had it on DVD for 20 plus years. It's probably one of the first DVDs I got, and then I think I watched it rowing a couple months ago, and then I put it in a couple nights ago just to refresh. But I think I fell asleep through most of it. I'm pretty up to par on it though. I've done my research.
I was more just asking about like the medium. So I watched it and streamed it on Tubi. So if you want to watch any Weird Al content, it's all on Tubi. It's all for free right now. They've got documentaries on there and a whole bunch of stuff.
Are you getting paid by Tubi? Is this
Well, I'm just
an
saying,
endorsement?
I'm letting our listeners know that if you're wondering where to track this down, that's how I tracked it down. And then it immediately snowballed into like as soon as the movie ended, it took me right to the Weird Al documentary or the mockumentary. It's not a documentary, the mockumentary thing that he does about himself, which is pretty funny. Have you seen that?
I have not. I have. I don't think have streaming or anything, so it hasn't really come around. But
Well,
I'm
this
pretty steeped in. I'm pretty steeped in his life as much as it is. So yeah.
I mean, it came out a very, very long time ago, even the mockumentary type thing. But anyway, so what
Wait, are you talking about the '80s one? Or are you talking about the movie that he did like the 2 years ago where Daniel Radcliffe played Weird Al?
no, I'm talking like the 80s one.
Oh no, I've never actually seen that.
It's funny. So the name of it is escaping me right now, but the idea behind it is that it's they're doing this serious quote mock or documentary, but it's clearly narrated by like Weird Al doing a different voice, and it's almost got like a Spinal Tap vibe to it. So if you have a
I
chance,
could no, I'd look at I just never bothered to look it up, but I know he also had a book printed in the mid to late 80s too.
Yeah.
So like that to me was I kind of when I think of Weird Al, I think of his peak was in early 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And that's when a lot of the stuff
Well, it's
like,
called
even before he what's that?
I was gonna say
Called what?
it's called The Complete Owl, and complete is
Yeah.
spelled Compleat. For some reason, like a pleat, I guess. And I wrote down it's a parody of a documentary. I think is kind of what's going on there. The Weird Al
That
the
would be make sense.
movie Weird, the Al Yankovic story is like the parody musical biopic starring
Right.
Daniel Radcliffe. And I will tell you that you should watch that too because it is quite well done. And Daniel Radcliffe, more on him later, does a really good job of playing Weird Al. So
Fair
what
enough.
what makes this movie great, right? I kind of got a bunch of different, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but let's talk about a couple key components to it. First of all, I know,
You put Michael Richards first.
well, I
So
was gonna say I know this, of course, having seen this movie a lot, but like when I put this on and Jana kind of walked into the room, she's like, is that Michael Richards? Is this the first thing he's ever in? And it is pretty, it's not, but it seems like it's the first thing I remember him being in, for me at least.
oh yeah, as a child growing up, Fridays the TV show was before our time, and we wouldn't have been old enough to remember it. And it's not on reruns. But I often what gets me about his character is that to me it doesn't. What I think is genius about it is I don't feel like I'm actually watching Michael Richards, and to me it's probably his best role because he sells the character so much and so hard that you divorce yourself of the fact that the guy's also Kramer, and that's no small feat to do. Where you can have one actor playing very two distinct characters, even though he has kind of been typecast as Kramer due to the obvious success of Seinfeld. So
Well,
I
and you,
think
but you also but he's at the same time. I agree with you 100%. But at the same time, he's still using a lot of the very similar like physical comedy that he's well known for
oh, he's
Seinfeld.
a very physical actor, and but putting those veneers in, the fake teeth, and
Yeah.
just that goofiness is like, okay, this feels like an authentic person and not Michael Richards playing a character. And that's hard to come by, I think, with a lot of movies where you're like, it just feels like somebody, the actor always kind of feels the same in each thing. And that he really went above and beyond, in my humble opinion.
No, I totally agree. And so he kind of has a bunch of bit appearances kind of moving before he hits this movie. And I don't even call this his breakout role because again, we discussed not a ton of people saw this movie, but he's in Desperate Hours, a TV show in 81. He was in a TV miniseries called Fresno in 86. He actually auditioned to play Al Bundy in the Married with Children show, but obviously he didn't get it. Ed O'Neill did.
And
He
and it's probably good that he didn't.
I mean, think about that kind of like butterfly effect there. That would have been odd. He's on Miami Vice at one point, Saint Elsewhere. He actually makes an appearance in Cheers and also pops into Jay Leno a lot, kind of early on in that in Jay Leno's run. But yeah, obviously we know him from Seinfeld. That's kind of where he hits it big. But he's such a honestly, like, don't get me wrong. There's two parts about this movie. And let's talk about it now. Like, we've got all of the parody spoof stuff that could happen through the movie, and then we got Stanley Spadowski, and I think those are the two like most pivotal parts of this movie. That's what drives the film itself.
Oh yeah, it's a very throwaway plot. Like it's 90 minutes. There's nothing too elaborate in it, but it almost takes on a an airplane like consistency where there are a lot of jokes and nods, and then you have the parody stuff, and you could take the relationship between you know the two people and cast that aside just because you're there to watch the goofy shit and not the basic movie stuff,
Well,
so to
so yeah,
speak.
so like the movie, I mean, what's fascinating, and if you haven't seen this, like this is the part that, again, I've seen it a million times, but I always forget it almost as if you're watching a film and then you're just randomly you've got commercial breaks, and the commercial breaks are these small little 30-second, 1 minute, whatever, promos of different shows that are on that station, or even just like Weird Al's like he's George's fantasies of things he's dreaming about, but it's just like these little mini clips just kind of happened throughout the course of the film that
and, and an entire music video, a three minute music video.
a 3 minute music video, right? Do we want to talk about the parodies that happen in this movie now, or do you want to talk about it when we get to like scenes to nerd out on? Because there's a lot of really fun parodies, but it kind of is the same thing as like what scenes are in this movie.
I mean, you can come back to it. It's fine.
Okay. Well, I do want to talk though as far as just overall parodies in film. So like when I say, because this is a parody movie, 100%, right? At least I think it is.
Yes.
So when,
Well, it flirts the line. It's a movie with about parodies by a parody artist, but it's not on the same vein as Airplane and Hot Shots. It's to me it's different because of the TV aspect and the clips where it's not part of the plot. It's like as you were just saying, like it's a secondary thing
Mhm.
that if it were woven into the narrative more, then it would take on the you know top secret type role. But instead, you get a generic movie with goofy snippets and trinkets and little fun nuggets of entertainment.
It's almost like
But yes, it is a parody.
a sketch show or variety show of parodies, right? Kind of pieced together to
That,
form a plot.
that's a way of putting it. Sure.
So parodies in films, you've kind of already mentioned or alluded to them. Like who do you think of when I say parodies in films? So we got, I mean, you mentioned Airplane, so we got the Zucker brothers. Who else?
Uh, I mean, that's kind of everybody. Airplane. I don't think they did. Did they do Top Secret? They did Top Secret too.
Well,
Top Secret with Val Kilmer. That
I mean, like,
the Naked Gun series and the Hot Shot series.
well, I don't want to. That's a hard question and impressive that you're able to answer that. But I'm thinking more like, what creators do you think of when you think of parodies, right? So we got the Zucker
Oh,
brothers.
Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker.
Okay, that's one. Mel Brooks, right? Another big
There
one.
you go. That's a good one.
Monty
Didn't
Python.
even think about it.
We got the Wayans. Can't forget about Scary Movie and
There you go.
what is it? I can't think of the movie. South Central while drinking your juice in the hood.
Don't
Um,
be a menace.
Your menace, jeez. Ben Stiller.
I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Let me
That
get
was
you-
first one of that.
Stiller does a little bit of this. We got Christopher Guest, obviously. I mean, Best in Show and all of his films. And then again, of course, this kind of snowballs, and this is kind of like a almost like a generational thing where you've got different creators that are really focusing on. You even say Mike Myers, right? Um, but let's talk about what we're here to talk about: the man of the movie and the myth, the legend, Weird Al, right?
The Sultan of Satire, the Prince of Parodies. I was kind of harkening back to the Sandlot.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Sultan of Satire, Sultan of Satire. You know, you got to have the little brother there to repeat everything that I say first. But I think those are apt titles for him, given his success and longevity.
I don't want to step on your toes here because I feel like you can probably talk a lot about the Weird Al origins. I've got a ton of information here, but do you want to kind of vibe for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, I got my basic little bit I wrote down that I had to refresh myself on some things, but by and large, I knew most of this coming into it. He was born in southern Los Angeles, October 23rd, 1959. What is special about that birthday, Justin?
October 23rd, 1959.
Uh, don't worry about the date, the year, but October 23rd. Whose birthday is that?
Is that your birthday?
That's mine and Pascal's, but yes, which I was delighted to learn when I was a kid and I wrote him. My sister had an autograph, like it was like a publicist book of actors and movie stars with the like, if you want to get an autograph, write to this address, and it was addressed for their publicist. And I was looking through it, and Weird Al's was in there, and so I wrote a letter to Weird Al when I was like 12 or 13, and got a response back where I got the autograph picture and was like admitted into his Friends of Al fan club and got several letters. And I was looking for them to refresh my memory with what was in them, but I don't know what happened to them. But part of the information was Al was born on something or other on October 23rd, 1959. And when you're a kid and he's like your favorite celebrity and who you're obsessed with at the time, it was a pleasant surprise to find that we had the same birthday. So, but
So cool.
He picked up the accordion at the age of 7, where he had a door-to-door salesman came by and was like, "I have the guitar and I have an accordion." And his he went with the accordion, and his parents supported him in that because there was another famous accordion player called Frankie Yankovic, and they're not related. But the mom, apparently, the quote was like, "There's nothing wrong with having two famous Yankovic accordion players in the world." And then she felt that he would hopefully take the accordion to another level in terms of like rock music. And so I thought that was very prescient of her to
Mhm.
kind of predict her son's success later on. But he skipped 2 grades, and he graduated high school 2 years early, which I think kind of lends it to his whole nerdy aspect. He went to Cal Polytechnic, which is a school in San Luis Obispo and outside LA, to study architecture. And his freshman year, the kids in the dorm gave him the name Weird Al. And when he later became a disc jockey in college, and he used the Weird Al name from which was supposed to be derogatory, but turned it into kind of his moniker and his handle. And he did as a kid, he did that. What I can't remember the something about the his car, but he you have it written down somewhere else. He did his first song, and he sent it into the Dr. Demento show, and Demento played it. And then later in college, he recorded his first parody, which was My Baloney,
Mhm.
the parody of My Sharona by the Knack. And then Demento played that. And then, as I found out doing research for this, he was at a concert for Dr. Demento, like a traveling show, and the Knack was there. And he went up to the lead singer of the Knack and introduced himself as the guy who wrote My Bologna. And the guy was like, "We love your song. We'd like to see about getting it published as a single." And so the record company, that's kind of how he got his first record contract, was the lead singer of the Knack actually recommended him to their label.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Okay.
he followed that up with Another One Rides the Bus, which is obviously a parody of Another One Bites the Dust. And from there, he met Jay Levy, his manager, who was like super impressed with the guy and saw potential and picked him up. And then he met John Bermuda Schwartz, who was his drummer, and ended up like auditioning for other musicians. And so he picked up Steve J and Jim West. So Bermuda Schwartz, Jay, and West have been his band for the entirety of his career from the very beginning. And then first major success was Eat It, which was the parody of Beat It. And that was helped by the kind of burgeoning era of the MTV and the super great, almost shot for shot remake of the Beat It music video. And that was on rotation all the time. And he ended up winning his first Grammy for Best Comedy Recording for Beat It. And then the rest is kind of the rest is history.
Yeah, that song actually topped at number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, which is pretty impressive. Um,
It was super popular in Australia. Apparently, it was like the number five. It peaked at number 5 in Australia and was almost as popular as the actual Michael Jackson song.
yeah,
So which is, but it's to me that's his best work is the his earlier stuff, and I think a lot of to discuss Al one way or another. Like to me, he's more successful with more successful music, and growing up in the 80s and 90s, I appreciate that music more than like modern music that he parodies nowadays, so to
yeah,
speak. And so that to me, his peak, and I think most people would agree that his peak was in the late 80s, as I said earlier, late 80s or early 90s. But he's hung around and he's remained successful. And I think more people know who he is now than knew who he was in 1993, which says a lot.
well,
He has the legacy of what? Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I think you're right, but what's interesting though is that that wasn't like I agree that I think that that time when all of his music is coming out in the 80s and 90s is peak. I don't know, creativity or just, I mean, again, obviously impact on us. But funny enough, like that's actually not his highest charting single. Do you know what his highest charting single is? I'll give you a hint. It came out in 2006.
Is I'm
I don't
White
expect you.
and Nerdy, was it?
Fucking right on, man. It is white and nerdy. That's the right answer. and that peaked at number 9 in 2000 October of 2006, which is just again like and like you said, I think that's past his prime in my opinion. And we'll talk about the peak of Weird Al later on, but number 6 in 2006 was pretty, or number 9 in 2006 was pretty incredible. He also earned he's earned 5 Grammys. He's been nominated 11 times, 4 gold records and 6 platinum records in the U.S.
I think
And
he's been nominated 17 times.
well, I'm sorry. He's won 5 times and he's been nominated an additional 11 times. He's been nominated 6 times, 16 times. So
And what I did read too is apparently in the 90s, the Grammys changed their rules for comedy albums and it became like comedy spoken word. And so he wasn't technically eligible to be nominated for a good 10 years until they changed the rules back. And so there's that when you look at it, it makes sense reading it because he was nominated all the way up through Alapalooza. And then there's just a blank slate. And then all of a sudden in the early 2000s, he starts getting nominations again, even though he had albums
yeah,
in the interim. And I think that was basically the reason why is he wasn't eligible because there aren't too many comedic artists out there. And so you'd imagine he'd get a nomination every time he releases an album just based on, you know, volume and scale.
yeah, scarcity. Since he made his debut on the Demento radio show in '76, he's sold. That was, by the way, that was when he was 16 years old. I don't think you mentioned that. He's sold more than 12 million albums. He's recorded 150 parodies and original songs, performed more than 1,000 live shows. His first top 10 Billboard album was called Straight Outta Linwood, and single, again, White and Nerdy, were both released in 2006. That's actually 3 decades after he came out. So, like, 3 decades after he premiered, he's still releasing these crazy, amazing, I mean, top 10 Billboards albums and singles. And his 14th studio album called Mandatory Fun, which came out in 2014, actually became his first number one album during its debut weekend. So, again, I do agree with you that his peak was way earlier than that, but I think that because of maybe the legacy of Weird Al, that's kind of driven a lot of like a lot more sales, maybe like more pop culture, I guess, relevance is maybe a way to
Well,
think.
YouTube and the internet help. I mean, because he transitioned to a getting his stuff on YouTube, and that you reach a much wider audience than somebody having to go to the record store. Like I never would have heard of him if like Jeremy Small hadn't introduced me to him.
Yeah.
So now with that, it's like, oh, people are looking for that type of stuff, and you get your audience of people who might never have sought to seek them out or hear about them before.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into the categories. First of all, summary. This is the summary according to IMDb, which is no, I'm sorry.
Justin, I rewrite
Did you
all of your
update
summaries.
this? Okay, I was saying that out loud. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not what I
No,
pasted.
it is
Uh,
not. It is not from IMDb.
I
We,
hope
we
this.
we deserve more
I
than whatever they're writing on the
hope this
internet.
is a continuing bit every time we record together. That I always forget that you do it, and then I just say that out loud every time. So read us the new summary.
Grammy Award-winning comedic parody artist Weird Al Yankovic, starring in his first and only feature film, stars as creative misfit and eventual UHF TV station manager George Newman, who shakes things up across the airwaves thanks to his overactive imagination and lovable TV star janitor sidekick Sadowski.
All right, that is way better than IMDb. This debuted July 21st, 1989, has a runtime of 1 hour and 37 minutes. I always asked, do you feel like it felt that? Do you feel like it feels an hour and a half, or do you feel like it goes quicker than that?
It's a pretty short movie. I wish there were. It wish apparently there's like he recorded almost 3 hours worth of material, but they it was like it was cut for pacing issues, and he's off quoted as saying like it was cut for a reason. So it probably isn't. There's probably more movie type stuff, just the standard acting fare. But I know there are a few scenes that they were supposed to record that they did not, that we can discuss a little later, that I really wish they had put in the movie, but did not get put in due to more tragic, extenuating circumstances.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that. But I do want to say while I was watching this, it felt like the first half or first 30 minutes of the movie is just now let's introduce this character. Now let's introduce this character. It was very apparent, like we're just gonna do this real quick scene so you know who this person is now. And now on to the next one. And they do it for like five different characters all in a row. And I don't know that I've ever noticed that or even thought to think about that, but pretty abundantly. And maybe it's because they cut a bunch of stuff that didn't I guess show rather than just tell us who these characters are. So anyway.
And some of them aren't really necessary. I mean, it's like here's the homeless guy outside the TV station
Yeah.
that asks for change, and he's like, here's the money in my pocket, and he counts it up, and then it's just that type of pun where you assume he's asking for money, but he literally just wants to change because he gives him $1 back in the
Yeah.
process. You're like, wait, what's going on there? And it's like, oh, he's looking for coins, and it's just a little MacGuffin that plays into and then comes to a head later on at the end of the movie. But it's just it's a little you think it's a joke and it fits to the plot, but it's still an entertaining moment because I think that actor who played the bum is really good, does a good job at the role.
I agree. Yeah. Budget of $5 million estimated, gross worldwide just over six. Opening weekend in U.S. and Canada was a little over 2 million, and it has not did not win any awards, sadly. Though I'm sure we'll talk about uh, things accolades it should have received at some point. BS rankings, Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter, which is the critic score, gives us a 63%, and the popcorn meter, which is the audience score, gives us a 77%. And finally, IMDb gives it a 6.9. I'm going to tell you right now, I was shocked that these numbers are this high, I'm very pleased at the audience for recognizing how good this movie really is.
It's kind of surprising. I mean, even the 63 with the critics is higher than what you'd expect and what you see with some movies.
Yeah,
But I do know that a lot of it is like it's probably reviews from back in the day and then some newer ones. So, but even then, if they're taking older reviews in, that if you got a decent word of mouth at the time, good for him.
yeah,
That's
I
it's
agree.
not it's no small feat for got somebody's first movie who's never really acted in anything before.
Yeah, no shit. It's pretty impressive. And again, I do think it stands up, this many years later, right? 35 years later. Um, wait, yeah, 30, wait, 35, 35.
It's almost 36. Where I tried to get you to do this last year, and you got a little busy. So I appreciate the
I,
sympathy vote and
I should have
extending it out a little later.
I should have mentioned that earlier, but despite that, I'm glad we're talking about it. All right, never mind. Tarantino Award for writing. So Weird Al wrote this. He has written all of his music videos, AITV, even his biography. He won a Primetime Emmy in 2023 for Outstanding Television Movie Writing for Weird Al, the Al Yankovic story. So if that's not a reason enough for you, Waka, to watch it. I mean, I'm just saying. It's on the Roku
It's
channel. It's free.
it's not that I have decided not to. It's that I'm a Luddite, and I finally like hooked up my old antenna in my attic to my TV, so I have basic 20 channels of basic airwaves television,
If you
but
can
I don't have
download,
it.
if you can download the Zoom app, which
I
presumably
need to,
you have,
I guess I could do it on my computer.
yeah, do it.
I didn't
All
think
right.
about that. I was thinking about it in the terms of TVs, and my TVs are old, and my TV won't even support Amazon Prime anymore. So
Jesus Christ.
I need a new TV. It'll play. It just freezes for like 20 minutes and then starts playing with like a blank screen, and it won't. It just my TV just shuts down. So I kind of gave up on it. I need to get a new TV. Don't shame me.
Yeah, that's not ideal viewing situation. I'll stop shaming you. Jay Levy also wrote this. This is pretty much all he wrote. Charles Holloway.
Wrote and directed because you skipped over the directing award.
Oh, I'll get back to that in a minute. I
Oh,
did.
okay,
It's
sorry.
over. The Charles Holloway also wrote this. Well, he wrote the sketch Conan the Librarian, which is definitely one of my favorite ones. And Weird Al co-wrote and developed the script over the course of 4 years. And the reason why we're mentioning Jay Levy is that, again, you said this before, that he was his manager. Um, and he directed the movie too, which is pretty cool. So the Spielberg Award for directing goes to Jay Levy. directed 17 of his music videos, also won a Grammy in 1989 for Best Concept Music Video for Weird Al's Fat. Another
Great video. That's amazing. Like his just he swells up with the fat suit and then dances, and he incorporates that into his concerts, which is one of the good reasons to go see his concert because he's gotten it down to like a 2 or 3 minute costume change, and he'll run off stage and they'll show a video or something, and he runs back on and he does all entirely fat in this very big elaborate suit, and
that's amazing.
so there you go.
I mean, he's definitely done. I don't know the answer to this, but I wonder what artist he's parodied the most. I mean, Michael Jackson's got to be up there somewhere.
Well, he's only done two. It,
Maybe that's
it
it.
probably is, but
Maybe he still
because he
wins.
usually does things that individually, like a certain song. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head where he's done at least two songs of theirs. That's an interesting question. I'd have to look that up, but it's probably Michael Jackson.
It probably is with two.
And he tried to do black and white, um, but Michael Jackson said no to it because he felt the topic was too serious to make a parody out of.
Hmm. I wonder what the title of that movie was, or that parody was going to be.
Oh, it's somewhere. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I don't want to get it wrong, so I won't say it. I can't remember.
Oh, he
Look it
actually
up,
had
but
written it. Like he wasn't coming up with the concept. He had done it.
no. Well, he approached like he normally does with people. He'll call them up and say, "Hey, I have this idea," and present the idea, and then the artist can. He's pretty polite about it because I think he could do it regardless if they wanted to or not. But he gives the artist the opportunity to say no thanks, please don't do it, or sometimes they'll say don't make a music video out of it. I know he tried to do Prince once or twice and Prince consistently rejected him and said no to the parodies, and then he kind of got in trouble once because he did the Amish Paradise based on Gangster's Paradise by Coolio,
Mhm.
and apparently Coolio didn't get the message and then ended up hearing about it and was pretty pissed off that he made a parody of it, and he had to kind of assuage him and he smoothed things out. But I do remember that was like the one time where somebody it came out before the artist himself gave permission, and the artist was kind of pissed that he was making fun of the song.
Huh. It's called Snack All Night, by the way.
Snack all night.
Yeah. According to the
Yeah, that it was the tip of my tongue. It was like eating at night somehow, but I couldn't remember what exactly it was.
yeah, I'd like to hear that. Tom Hanks, speaking of Weird Al, Tom Hanks Best Leading Role Award. Weird Al plays George Newman. I didn't realize this, but Weird Al has 209 credits. That's really a lot. Um, of course, all the music videos, which I guess that's adds up for most of those. I'm curious. I made a
And
list. Go ahead.
he's basically playing himself in all of them, correct?
In most of his appearances, yeah, he has actually some recently he's been playing like bit parts as not Weird Al, which is really fascinating.
Huh.
But speaking of, like, what do you think is his best appearance as himself? I got a little list here, and I'm curious out of this list or even the one. Naked Gun came out in 90 or 88. Parker Lewis Can't Lose 91. Drew Carey Show 98. Sabrina 99. Also in 30 Rock in 2012. And then the Jon Stewart Show.
I
And-
put that one in because I remember being this was like 93, 94 as he was building up to Alapalooza. And I remember being watching the promo on TV of like on this week's Jon Stewart, like guest star Al Yankovic, and being super excited and actually setting up the VCR to record it. And then
Yep.
it only ended up being a 4 minute segment, but it's probably the weirdest you'll ever see Weird Al. And he's usually a very nice, congenial guy, and you think he's kind of goofy, but he's in this clip with Jon Stewart. He's like he they show a clip of the Red Hot Chili Peppers spoof where he does Flintstone Rock based on like
Mhm.
what my mind is blanking everything, but they show a clip of the video and it starts with the Bumblebee girl from the Blind Melon. And he's like, yeah. And then we ended up dating for a little bit and she broke up with me. And he goes into this really big depressive thing. And I get so depressed that he grabs a knife and he stabs himself in a fake hand and he's like screaming. And John Stewart's just sitting there the entire time, like, what the fuck is going on? And then John, like, here's a bucket of pudding to make you feel better. And he grabs a big handful of pudding and he smears it all over his face and then dumps it on his head. And he's sitting there with this mop top, his trademark hair, with pudding everywhere. And they're continuing to talk. And John's like, oh, look, I have a bag of flour. And he picks up the bag of flour and he dumps the bag of flour on his head. And you're like, okay, where else is this going to go? And he's like, oh, look, I have a mustard, a thing of mustard, and he squirts mustard all over himself. And he's like, "Yeah, go see Weird Al or go see Alapalooza." And you're sitting there like, "What the fuck?" I didn't. It is the weirdest I've seen him. But to answer your question, I like his appearance in The Naked Gun just because of the entirety of the scene where Leslie Nielsen gets up to the podium and he gives the heartfelt speech about his heart being broken and everything. And George, his partner's like, they're not here for you. Weird Al was on the plane, and then it cuts to him waving at everybody, and he's got a big audience cheering for him. So I think that personally was his best one.
I agree. He says, "Does anybody have any idea how much a man can hurt inside?" And then Weird Al's, he's got roses and flowers. Yeah, I think that's the best appearance. He was pretty good
They're
in
not here for you, Frank. They're not here for you, Frank. Weird Al's on the plane,
yeah, he's good in
and
30.
I think he appeared in the other two as well. He's credited on Two and a Half and 33 and a Third, but I haven't seen those in a while, so I can't remember where he appeared in them.
I don't recall the situation either, but they were not as memorable as the first one. I can easily
No,
say.
the first one's great.
All right, so again, Weird Al is George Newman. Michael Richards playing Stanley Spagowski. Basically what he's known for, and he's been in other things. He was in Problem Child, Conehead, So I Married an Axe Murderer, Fridays, but Seinfeld,
If
that's what he's known for, right?
Seinfeld, obviously, if you have not seen him in Problem Child, he's freaking great in that too. He's a murderer who escapes from prison, and he's famous because he wears the bow tie killer. And like, if you the kid is a problem himself and takes him up as like a hero of sorts, and so that's why the kid in Problem Child is wearing the bow tie all the time because he's emulating his hero, who's a murderer. And then there's a really weird sex scene between Michael Richards and John Ritter's wife, who Amy Yazbek, who ended up actually being John Ritter's actual wife. But it's a very odd. I don't know if you've seen Problem Child,
Oh
but I
yeah.
bought that on DVD and watched it not long ago, and it's probably the most outlandish part in the entire movie is his wife having sex with Michael Richards on their dining room table while John Ritter's in the kitchen in another world, so to speak. I can't remember the exact pretense as to why he's so out there, but yeah, he's
I have
great.
I have seen Problem Child, and yes, he is great in that movie. Seinfeld obviously is what we know him from, though. And then finally, Kevin McCarthy plays R.J. Fletcher. He had 206 credits, things like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Inner Space, Piranha, Howling. He was in Twilight Zone, and he passed away in 2010 at the age of 96, which is pretty impressive.
And just to clarify, you had him, and it's not a fault of your own, but you had him in the other the next category as a secondary character.
Yeah.
But you to me, and as I put in the notes, it's like this is the Alec Guinness of Star Wars or Brian Cox of Super Troopers. It's like this is the legitimate A-list, a serious bona fide actor who for some reason accepted a paycheck to appear in a outlandish, goofy comedy and in a role that you'd never expect him to appear in. So honestly, Leslie Nielsen in Airplane might be the safest comparison, where you have Leslie Nielsen, who was a dramatic actor, had never done comedy before until he gets cast in Airplane. And while he's still a serious actor, he delivers some of the absolute funniest lines in the movie and ends up being the best part. And then had a comedic career after that based on that one role. So having Kevin McCarthy in the movie really gives it legitimacy as an actual serious movie and not some, you know, kind of goofy thing to be ignored and thrown away.
Yeah, no, and I moved actually a couple of these people around after I had rewatched it again a couple nights ago, and I totally agree. Like he's the main antagonist, definitely one of the main characters. He doesn't come in until I guess he comes in about 20 minutes of the movie, so he is not in it as much as I remember him being in it, but he still is a vital part of the driving the plot.
Oh,
So,
every scene he's in, he absolutely steals it. I mean, he
oh yeah,
plays a smarmy asshole so well. You can read the reviews of him. Apparently, he was like constantly cracking up doing the scenes just because he it's his character is just so evil, so to speak, that it's so unlike the actor to play somebody like that that he really got a kick out of playing the actor himself,
Yeah,
playing that character.
yeah. I mean, it shows too. Like he's leaning into it big time. Is that your vote for best leading actor, or is it Michael Richards, which is the right answer?
Oh, Michael Richards, I Stanley Spadowski, like I to add to my nerdiness, as you know, in the audience doesn't, but I went to one of those high schools where everybody got their own page for the senior year yearbook for quotes and everything. And I literally quoted the entire "Life is like a mop" speech for my senior year yearbook for, for graduating. That
Yeah.
it's he's parodying Network with the I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore, but it's such a great moment in the film, and he's so earnest about it and so heartfelt that you as a kid it always he that scene always stole it for me. But
Yeah.
Michael Richards is what makes that the movie great to me, but Kevin McCarthy is a close second.
I'd agree. He's incredible. They're honestly all three of them are pretty incredible. And it's what's funny is that like I actually think Weird Al is shockingly good. Not shockingly good. That's unfair because he's obviously good in all the parody and different music videos he's made. Uh, but him as the actor, like playing George, that's the worst part of him in the movie. It's all of the other things he's doing, like all of the Geraldo Rivera like impersonation, the Rambo scene, the Indiana Jones, like that's when he's like really shining. It's like all of those parody cut scenes, right?
I agree. I do think he does have a few moments as George Newman, his answering machine message, and just a few inside jokes, like he's doing the mashed potatoes
Yeah.
at the table, and this is important. This means something. It's like why did you put that in there? I don't know, but he really sells. I think he just did a great job for a non-actor in just playing a casual
Well,
everyman type of role.
he put that in because he's like, how do I parody Close Encounters of the Third Kind? And I'm just gonna do this random ass fucking scene right now in this movie. But anyway, but I do think that's what I don't mean he's bad in that role. I just think that's that's the
He
worst
he shines in
part.
as alternate characters in himself. Yeah.
Definitely. Other four Jacksons. Well, the first one I nominee I have is Victoria Jackson as Terry. I would assume people our age know her best from SNL. She has 83 acting credits, believe it or not. She was also so some of the things from SNL, I
I'm
guess.
I'm sorry. I'm just reading that. I'm reading the note I put for those two commercials, and they are the
Yeah,
the
please.
the
Yeah,
handy off one is probably one of my favorite
yeah.
SNL parody commercial where she's sitting there like, have you ever had this scenario and she's got two extra fingers on her
Mhm.
hand? Not like one extra finger, but an additional two. She's just shamed by it, and she like tries to smash them off in the oven, and like does this really great ow, and then she ends up, to people who haven't seen it, using this material you put on it like a wart remover. It's like over 3 days your fingers will shrivel and die as they as the powerful axes work their magic.
Yeah,
And then the love toilet where she's sitting across from Kevin Nealon having sharing a deuce with each other apparently. But
yeah. That Love Toilet one is freaking hilarious. It's like
and I did go
I
ahead.
was gonna say the Love Toilet is like it's like a commercial that you might see for like a Ralph Lauren perfume. Like it's like black and white, and they're like Love Toilet, and it's so fucking stupid, but
You
also
share everything together.
yeah,
Now share this.
yeah.
And it did, and as I was looking around, it did dawn on me she had one of her better sketches because she was always kind of a background character. Like she was famous for her gymnastics during Weekend Update, and so she'd do like kind of physical stuff. But she played Roseanne Barr in a quick sketch where Chris Farley played Tom Arnold.
Oh
And I
yeah.
don't know if you've seen this or remember it, but she got in trouble for it's like right after they got the tattoos on their butt, and she's doing a great spot on Professional Roseanne, but it's worth it just for the Chris Farley as
Oh
Tom
yeah.
Arnold because he's like he's super wired, like he's coked out. He's like, I went to rehab. I drove myself there, and he's just constantly moving and shifting around and scratching. And then at the end, they like fall on top of each other and start making out and having fake sex on the camera. And it's like that was a great little 1 minute 1 minute sketch featuring Chris Farley.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't that dramatic and or that ridiculous over the top in dress. I have a feeling.
I don't think it actually. I think it was a mistake and it didn't air because he jumps up to the camera and his wig falls off and he's wearing the bald cap, and you can tell like oh, he does this like oh shit moment, but he leans into it and he grabs her and they start making out and then he rolls on top of her and they're like they're both clearly crapping up, but
I've seen it.
it
I am 90% sure that it actually did air. Like it was because I remember seeing that for sure. It would fuck up us at all. Anyway, um, David Bowie plays Bob, and you probably know Bob from The Rock. He's one of the scientist guys. He's in Shameless, which I love Shameless, and he's in a bunch of TV stuff. And then Fran Drescher plays Pamela Finkelstein, and we know her from, of course, The Nanny. Um, and
but she's also Saturday Night Fever, and she did a great job in Spinal Tap as the reporter who questions them about the over the top sexual nature of Smell the Glove. Like
yeah,
it's kind of demeaning to women, though. You know, it's like no, it's fine. But it's a woman, and she's on all fours wearing a leash. Like you think that's appropriate? That's a it was
well,
a good. She's a good scene.
I think Fran Drescher is one of those actresses that or actors or whatever that have they've almost been penalized because of their success because they're so well known for a role that you kind of forget that she did anything else. And I'm not sure the role that she's known for, even though she made a ton of money and was super popular with the nanny. Um, kind of like I don't know if that aged very well. If that may, I don't know if people are doing a lot of nanny rewatches, but maybe they are.
Well, she's kind of, I don't want to knock her at all, but her voice is kind of a gimmick, unfortunately for her, and
Right.
she became famous for that super high pitched,
Yeah.
the way she talks basically.
Honestly,
And it's like if
yeah,
you don't like that,
I was gonna
then
say
you're
it's
not going to be
almost
a fan of her.
like a Steve Urkel type situation too, right? Jaleel White like got known for that type of persona, and that's not, and he's been since trying to almost like break that. But again, they're still probably cashing those residual checks, so we shouldn't feel too bad for Andrew.
She is. Last time I checked, I remember reading this. She's the president of the Screen Actors Guild,
Oh yeah, yeah.
the
No,
American
no.
Federation of Television Radio Artists. Like she's the head of the SAG union,
Yeah,
which
no,
is
no, no.
pretty bad.
She's super involved and she's been a working actress for decades now. I'm just saying that I'm sure she's still cashing those the nanny checks. Like she's fine.
David Bowe as Bob is a nice everyman kind of backup guy, but Fran Drescher does a great job as the on the reporter and as a reporter, and so I'll go with her.
I hate to like keep agreeing with you, but like I agree. I think that Victoria Jackson and Dave Bowie are fine, but I think that Fran Drescher like is great. So she's got to win it. Backup singers, deep cuts. First of all, we have Anthony Geary who plays Philo. He was in 1,957 episodes of General Hospital. It's a lot. It's one of
It's
the,
it's 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 Philo, by the way.
what did I say?
Sorry,
Philo? Philo. Sorry, Philo.
you said Philo. Like he was named after Philo T. Farnsworth, who's the inventor of the television.
Oh, okay. All right, Philo. I should have said that right. I know I just watched it like 2 nights ago. Billy Barty plays Noodles. We know Billy Barty from a lot of things. I personally know him from Master of the Universe. Of course, he's in Willow. He's in Legend. So Billy Barty was a huge advocate for dwarfism and little people rights. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2000. Um, Trinidad Silva, who is Raul from Raul's Wild Kingdom. Very sad. He was killed by a drunk driver during production. That's freaking nuts.
Yeah, and they edited his part because he didn't get to finish shooting, and it said they dedicated the movie to him. But when I was saying earlier, one of the scenes that I wish they had filmed was apparent. The situation is he has his teaching poodles how to fly bit,
Mhm.
which is absurd in his own right. But the it was supposed to continue with Gigi, the second poodle he throws out the window, teams up with other poodles to enact revenge and they had filmed the scene where um, Raul gets attacked by like a dozen poodles, and he's got a bunch of poodles attached to his arm and his face, and he's like thrashing around as the dogs are getting their revenge for their friends. But they did not put that in the script, which was really unfortunate because he does a wonderful job in that role.
Oh yeah,
It's really pretty amazing.
he's incredible. Is it pronounced Gede Watanabe?
Getty Watanabe.
Yeah, Getty. I know who he is.
Getty Watanabe.
I've never said his first name out loud. We know him from 16 Candles, Gung Ho, which is I think my favorite role of his, which is maybe weird to say out loud. Gremlins 2 as well, and of course this. And then David Proval, I put this on there. He plays Head Thug because I know him from
Yeah,
Shawshank Redemption and
Russia.
Richie Sopranos. He's a really well-known actor. All right, I'll go first this time of my pick of the backup singers, and I don't think you can go wrong with any of these people. But I think it's Trinidad Silva. I love him in this movie.
Oh, that fucking Raoul Wild Kingdom. I would watch an entire movie based about Raoul's Wild Kingdom. Just the and
If
you have to wonder like how much that influenced Ace Ventura. Because you look at his apartment and then you compare it to Ace Ventura's apartment with all the animals and everything, and you're like, this is kind of borderline the same fundamental premise. But he's just got that like weird lazy eye, and he is just freaking lovable with his, the turtle is nature's suction cup.
yeah.
Ah, it sticks. Ah. Let's go take a look at this. And they're like, where did you find this guy? He's like, I didn't find him. I thought you found him. And he's just got his own TV show.
Yeah. He's incredible. Is that your pick too?
I would watch that show, is what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Billy Barty's fun, but Silva gets the most time. I mean, he has two sections dedicated to him, and then he's got that third part where they're like, we've got the delivery with Badgers, and he does this whole Badgers bit. And so he is featured more prominently than any of the other actors in the movie in terms of like how he gets to develop his character.
Which I'd forgotten about. I know he's in there. Of course, that's one of my favorite skits, but I was like, oh, he's in this movie a lot. Keeps popping in there. Okay.
But I will say Getty Watanabe's character as he gets the Wheel of Fish quote. Like I probably quote "You're so stupid" more than anybody in any other quote in the movie.
I while we're
You're so stupid.
while we're saying it, I would say nothing, absolutely nothing.
What is in the box that Hirosan is bringing down the stairs right now? Yeah, I mean his two lines right there are great,
Yeah,
but I think Trinidad Silva really sells the overall package.
yeah, I concur. John Williams category. John Du Prez composed this, and he also composed Monty Python's Meaning of Life, Oxford Blues, Once Bitten, A Fish Called Wanda, and also TMNT 1 through 3. So let's give Teenage Mutant Ninja
Which
Turtles some respect.
I think that's great because I actually have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soundtrack, the first one, on tape,
Yeah,
and there's some really great the Shredder suites. Like there's a couple instrumentals that went on during specific scenes that it's a legitimate. I mean, that's a great movie to begin with, and it's one of my favorite comic book movies. But he did a great job with that soundtrack, and the UHF one is fairly standard fare, but I'd go with TMNT being his a better one in my opinion.
yeah, I'll support that. I listen. I ride for TMNT. I don't care what people say. Soundtrack. A lot of this is, of course, Weird Al stuff. So he does Money for Nothing, or actually, it's Beverly Hillbillies is the remake for that. It's the Money for Nothing by Dire Straits remake or reimagining. What do you call it? Like the parody, I guess. He does Isle Thing, which is a parody of Wild Thing by Tone Loc. Let Me Be Your Hog.
It's the song that's playing with his uncles in the pool,
Yep.
but that's an actual song. It's only like 20 seconds long, but it's on the CD. And I will say that yes, the UHF soundtrack is in my CD booklet that is in my car right now, and I will put it in from time to time.
I'm
I'm
not
not. I'm
surprised.
I'm outing myself as something, but keep going.
Well, I was gonna say a couple other parodies he does, and I'll let you talk about the one you added, the Hot Rocks polka, which is a polka medley of Rolling Stones songs. She Drives Like Crazy, which is She Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals parody, which I love that song, the original. I also like the new one, but Generic Blues, which is a style parody of the blues. He does Spam, which is the parody of Stand by REM. And then finally, The Biggest Ball Twine in Minnesota, which is a style parody of Harry Chapin and Gordon Lightfoot.
And one of the reasons I have the soundtrack in my car is because Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota is probably my, I would say, top three. I'd say that's probably one of his best, if not one of his best songs in terms of not necessarily the comedy aspect, but in terms of if you haven't heard it, it's like an ode to Americana and road trips. And in general, it's a really, really good musical song. Like it's, I think it was very well done, and a for being an original, one of his original songs, it's easily his top two or three best one that he wrote specifically himself,
Yep.
even if it's in the a style parody. But it doesn't matter that it's a parody of Gordon Lightfoot. It's just kind of the narrative story, but it's a very unique Weird Al song in general.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter what kind of parody he's making, it's always good. All right. Next category, scenes to nerd out on. So I'm gonna try and this was kind of hard because there are a lot of like small little interludes that we already mentioned about the small little parody scenes. So I'm probably gonna skip some, add them in if you want to contribute here. I feel like you like we don't want to skip something that I don't
Well,
mention.
what's your favorite? What's your favorite parody?
That's a good question. I've got a lot. You want me to just get list a couple real quick?
Whatever your choice.
I'll list a bunch, and these may be scenes, and I'll just skip them if we talk about scenes. So, I mean, the movie starts out with a Raiders of the Lost Ark parody of George basically like enacting the opening scene of Raiders. We already mentioned George doing the mountain potatoes from Close Encounters. Uh, Raoul's Badgers. We don't need no stinking Badgers. Is from the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Let's see. These floors are dirty as hell, and I'm not going to take it. You already kind of mentioned that. That comes from Network. Conan the Librarian is obviously Conan the Barbarian, which is fucking amazing. We got the Gandhi 2,
Gandhi 2.
which is, of course, a, sequel to the 1982 biopic.
No more Mr. Passive Resistance. Great.
Wheel of Fish is supposed to, I mean, I guess kind of be Wheel of Fortune, but any big wheel prize spinning. We got Town Talk, which is really, I mean, it's Geraldo Rivera, but it could really be any tabloid talk show from the 90s, if you think about it.
It could, but it's very specific to Geraldo because Geraldo is famous for two specific events. One was the Al Capone's vault,
Hmm.
where he televised his we're going to open up Al Capone's vault and let's see what's inside, and it was a live broadcast, and he's like got a crew there to open up the door, and he's climbing inside, and it ends up being absolutely nothing. It's filled with like dirt. Like it was a huge letdown
Yeah.
for Geraldo. And then the second one was there a fight broke out on the stage, and Geraldo got hit in the face with a chair, and it
Yeah,
broke his nose.
had
And
the
so
thing on
for a
his
couple of
face.
weeks he had to appear with a bandage on his nose. And so Al references those two directly with Al Capone's glove compartment, and then the little interlude where he's got all the very evil characters who all get into a fight, and then one of them that somebody picks up a chair and throws it at him across the room, and that's when he appears with
Yeah,
a giant bandage across his face.
which is pretty great. The
I wonder how Geraldo felt about that, getting getting called out by Weird Al. Like that was only 1 or 2 years after those events actually happened, so it was pretty close time wise. He probably still had sinus issues from the chair.
I was gonna say I don't know how much Geraldo's known for his comedy. To stream or not to stream, is this better as a TV show? I I said no for the movie, but I would watch this channel. Is what I wrote down.
Yeah, I would too, and it kind of reminded me. I drew comparisons in my head between this and interdimensional cable from Rick and Morty,
Mm,
where they had two episodes where it was just, hey, we're going to sit down and watch TV and see what TV's like in alternate universes. And it's just a bunch of very random, very out there sketches that some of them are hit and some of them miss. But
yeah.
by and large, you're like, I'm watching this because I don't know what the hell is coming next and I don't know what to expect. And it is entertaining even if the joke falls flat. So I would watch U62 probably more than most things.
100%. Channel 60, I'm in. Tomorrow's another day. I was trying to think about what would happen if I was, I mean, and this is a real channel, right? So how does this storyline evolve? Like what happens to Stanley? What happens to the characters? I I would wonder if this channel just eventually warps into like a bastardized version. I'm trying to like not be so cynical, but I wonder if it would be like does it turn into the next Bravo? Does it turn into MTV? Is it like a full reality, you know what I mean? Like reality channel. That's all they do is reality shows all day. I think that's like worst case scenario, but maybe they even become like what they usually happens with capitalism is that they now become like what they set out to balk against, right? I don't know. That's just what I thought maybe would happen long term.
It's a discussion like how would you look at a sequel, or if they remade this movie today, how would it work? Because they're they're like cable TV is dead. You've got streaming, and it's really like YouTube or
Yeah.
TikTok. And how would somebody like this survive in the era of TikTok? Because in all reality, like that's most of what you see on Instagram Reels and YouTube and Shorts and TikTok is are people doing these types of sketches and takes and parodies, and very few people achieve any sort of major success with them. But the ones that do are pretty damn creative with how they approach things.
Yeah.
And so how would you make a movie like this in the era of and even I think as we get to the facts, like UHF television was pretty much on its way out in 1989 to be replaced by cable TV. And so how, it was obsolete 30 years ago. And so how do you make this a continuation without competing with the likes of 500 million, a billion people who have access to a cell phone camera and uploading it to YouTube?
So channel 62 now would be like cable TV and the big bad is Netflix. Something like that, right? Or
Sure.
or maybe Stanley, I'm sorry, George has become the RJ character, right? And now he's the bad guy. And I could see Weird Al playing that like incredibly well.
Oh, you get super rich and he's got a big house and
Yeah.
he
Almost like
he
the Dirt.
shuns Stanley. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. That I would watch that. That'd be a great sequel. If you're listening, Weird Al, we're here for you. We'll help with the screenplay. Nerd facts. Let's just kind of pop back and forth with some of these. So for the shot of the Spatula City billboard, the production bought a billboard on a remote stretch of highway, and for months afterwards, drivers taking the exit would ask nearby businesses about Spatula City, and it was basically removed after local businesses complained because it didn't exist.
I would go to Spatula City just
Yeah,
to see what the hell's going on.
I'd love to see different technological advances in spatulas.
Good deals too. Buy 10
Man,
spatulas, 9 spatulas, get one
Spatula
more
City,
for just 1 penny. Um,
man.
the wheel of fish use real fish, which are bought at a local fish market in the morning before the shoot. And the set designer began attaching them at 6 a.m., but they didn't film until 4:30 on a hot summer day in a building that wasn't air conditioned and filled with studio lights and 100 extras, which I'm sure we could all appreciate that. And Al described the filming conditions as ripe by the time things were finished.
Yeah.
Which is you hear this a lot in movies when they use like the Harry Potter stuff. Whenever they talk, the kids talk about filming the dining room scenes because you start filming and they dress the set with real food and it takes 10 hours. And so you're sitting there with actual stuff and milk products that all starts to spoil. And sometimes they just leave it dressed for the next day. And so like 2 or 3 days will go by and things will just get worse and worse until you're like literally wanting to throw up from the smells around you. But I would imagine like a 10 fish sitting out for real whole fish for 8 to 10 hours,
It's,
12 hours is it's
that's
gonna smell
not going
pretty
to be good.
gross.
Not going to be good. You already mentioned all like the violent scenes, and Weird Al like refused to remove those scenes, but then at the same time was kind of upset that it was rated PG-13 instead of PG. And because of the flying poodles and the Conan and everything else, like that's just how they ended up rating it. So,
I mean, we can't forget the as the notes. The shop teacher cutting his thumb off and
oh yeah,
squirting, which might be that single bloodiest, and that's a pretty
all the
a
blood. Yeah,
realistic effect.
yeah, yeah.
And he would you look at that? And he splaying squirting blood all over everybody, and just call me Mr. Butterfingers. And that's he's a comedian. What is his name?
I feel like I looked him up, but I don't remember what it is anymore.
Well, I was just because the topic of like residuals and how emo Phillips, that's it. He's a comedian that's famous for like doing really weird awkward persona and falsetto voice, and like I don't think I've seen him in anything in decades, but he quipped that he gets every like once a year or something he'll get a 30-cent check for residuals for his acting in UHF.
Oh, that's sweet.
When people talk about celebrities and actors, they're like, "Oh, you get residuals. You know, you're always making money." People are like, "No, like you might get $1 a year if you're lucky." And it really doesn't. It's not going to pay the rent in Los Angeles.
Not for movies like this, no. Or even like other pet, unless it's like Titanic, you're probably not getting a lot of money from it. Or Seinfeld, right? I mean, you're getting a lot of money from Seinfeld, the
Well,
Netflix.
yeah, you get the stuff that shows. Used to show 20 times a day. You'd get on the dozens of different markets. You definitely get a lot of money. But like a movie that might appear on cable, once or twice a year, you're not getting shit for that.
Yeah,
It's my turn.
your turn.
Um, the multiple endings apparently there's I don't understand how this works, but apparently George finds the severed thumb and gives it back to the shop teacher. And I read this in a couple places too, and it confused me how that works because we're well past the where is he going to find the thumb? Is he
Who
do they
knows?
do they go back and have the shop the next episode and he's teaching again and then he looks around and sees it on the ground? I don't know, but I could imagine them continuing that scene and finding the thumb on the ground and handing it to the guy, like, here you go. And then he apparently put the thumb in his mouth or tries to reattach it or something. But that
Which
one
which
sounds pretty odd.
I think is why they cut it. If this is in fact true, this is just internet research. Who knows how much this is.
Right.
The movie was originally titled The Vidiot, and Al didn't think UHF would make much sense given the rise of cable TV, along with the fact that UHF designation was not widely used anymore anywhere but North America. But Orion insisted for the U.S. market, that's what we call it. And at one point, it was actually called or referred to as the Vidiot from UHF. And in the DVD commentary, Weird Al says that in interviews on foreign television shows, when asked why he picked that title, he felt like replying, I didn't. The studio did. I hate that title. And it was released as Los Telelocos in Mexico, which translates to the TV Crazies. TV
That's twice the titles because
Crazies.
the Money for Nothing Beverly Hillbillies title, he didn't want to call it that either. But Mark Knopfler, who's the guitar player for Dire Straits, because I think I removed this one from the list. We were supposed to talk about it earlier. Let's edit that part out. Um, yeah, so when the Money for Nothing, in order to film that parody, he got permission from Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, and Mark's like, "That's fine, but I'm going to play the guitar scene, the guitar music, the solo." And then even the keyboardist from Dire Straits was the keyboardist in the for the for the parody song. But the Money for Nothing slash Beverly Hillbillies title was not Al's choice, and he wanted to change that to something a little more continuous versus
Hmm.
the name of the actual song and the name of the TV show. So he lost out on a couple of the naming rights for certain things, but that's what studios do.
That's what they do. UHF stands for ultra high frequency. This is for my aunt, by the way, which is a range of radio waves that fell between 300 megahertz and 3 gigahertz. And most of us and people younger than us definitely have no idea what that means. But before remotes, old TVs had two dials, VHF, which was 1 through 12, and UHF, which ran much higher. So, Aunt Karen,
Yeah, so
like that.
you'd watch 2, 4, 5, 11, and like ABC or
Yeah.
I think was 12. So you basically had those, and then you could turn the other dial, and it had a hell of a lot more numbers. I don't remember ever. I know we had one TV that actually had the VHF UHF dial, but I don't know if I ever watched or we ever picked up any actual UHF stations.
We
I don't
did.
know off the top of my head.
We had a TV like that
Did you?
that sat in the ground, but we did not pick any of that up either. I don't remember watching any of that.
Maybe the religious channel. There was like the Christian broadcasting channel that was on 24.
Yeah.
That might have picked up on there, but yeah, off the top of my head, it's like I definitely didn't spend much time at the higher frequencies. Um, Going on, Yankovic originally wanted Sylvester Stallone to cameo as the helicopter booth worker in the Rambo sequence, and discovered that both he and Stallone had a mutual friend. And Sylvester initially agreed, but had to back out due to scheduling conflicts.
No,
Which
it's so,
that would have been icing on the cake, having him show up.
I know. That'd have been so amazing. Speaking of a cameo, potentially, Seinfeld was supposed to play Bob, but he turned it down. And again, who knows if that's true or not, but I don't like that as much. I like that Bob is nondescript and maybe someone is kind of a bit actor, but you know, I guess Seinfeld kind of was at the time too. So
Well, there's an interesting connection that I was watching a clip from Fridays, which Michael Richards was on, and Larry David was an actor on Fridays as well. So it would make sense why, when they were casting for Seinfeld, that Larry David and Jerry picked up Michael Richards, because there was obviously some, camaraderie between the actors and everybody going on with the movie and that show, which were all basically being produced. The pilot season came out in '89 for Seinfeld,
yeah.
which is when they were shooting UHF and when that was released.
Hmm.
Where
Is
are we?
I was saying, am I going now?
Oh yeah. Well, uh, George Newman's character name is a nod to Alfred E. Newman, which makes sense. Who was, of course, the goofy mascot for Mad Magazine.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. We've mentioned Dr. Demento. His real name is Barrett Eugene Hansen. Weird Al gives him a cameo in this movie as a thank you for all the support and help you've given him, and he gives him the the character name of Whip Cream Eater, and it's during the Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse TV promo when he gets whipped cream sprayed in his mouth. So that's Dr. Demento.
Yeah, and then so as I said earlier, UHF is an Orion film production. And before its release, UHF actually tested higher with audiences than RoboCop did, which is a wonderful movie and was insanely popular. Came out the year before in '87, and the studio was so confident that the movie would be a hit. But thanks to an Orion corporate buyout, it didn't get any real money for publicity and consequently bombed. As you said earlier, we only made $6 million on a $5 million budget. It was when you think back to summer of 1989, and as Al likes to say, they released the movie the same summer as two little films called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Batman.
Yeah, that's
And I went down and did a little research. So the summer of 1989, these were the movies we got to watch: The Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, Batman, Uncle Buck, Honey and I Shrunk the Kids, Lethal Weapon 2, Turner and Hooch, The Abyss, Weekend at Bernie's, Roadhouse, When Harry Met Sally, Star Trek 5, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, the Bond movie License to Kill, Karate Kid Part 3, and Parenthood with Steve Martin, which 99% of what everything I listed there are classics
Yeah.
in this day and age. And a lot of them made a lot of money too. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, you don't think about it that much, but that was with Rick Moranis, that made almost $200 million and ended up becoming a whole series of movies.
Yeah.
Uncle Buck, I freaking love that movie. That's on TV all the time. Roadhouse is now like a cultural milestone.
Hmm.
But you can imagine being Weird Al, and it's like, okay, I've got to compete with Batman and the new Indiana Jones and the new Ghostbusters
Just
and
about
John Hughes comedies.
all the
And they
I
didn't really have any and they didn't have any really trailers for it. They had no money for the budget to advertise it. So it
yeah,
was
just
unfairly
the
maligned.
list of IP slash future IP. You didn't even say Lethal Weapon 2. Like reiterate that one. Yeah, a lot of money was being spent on films that summer.
But
Here's
to continue though, I was just going to say about Orion because I think it's interesting because we talked about with and I sorry for the digression here. Uh, the with the Sandlot where it's like they don't make movies like this anymore, and one of the reasons why is because they don't have companies like Orion anymore, which was a little independent studio that honestly, when you look at the list of movies that it came out with, that were successful, it won Best Picture for Amadeus. The company won Best Picture for Dances with Wolves, which itself won 7 Oscars, and that was in 1990. Silence of the Lambs came out in 91, which won Best Picture, Screenplay, Director, Actor, and Actress. Like the Big Five is one of the only movies to do that. They did RoboCop, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and they even did The Terminator, the first one. And
yeah,
this company still goes bankrupt 6 months after winning Best Picture for Silence of the Lambs and having one of the most successful horror movies of all times.
I know.
And it's like it just goes to show that like the industry is very fickle, and it's really easy for these places to go into debt and crash out in spite of just major huge successes. And it's kind of sad to see because now you're just kind of left with Disney and the larger ones who are there. If they're not buying up the smaller companies, they're just putting them out of business. And these companies were famous. Like Orion's mantra was like, "Well, we'll give you the money and we'll give you complete creative freedom." And nobody gives creative freedom to directors anymore, unless you're a big name guy like Nolan or whoever has shown to make 200, 300 million in box office returns for a Marvel movie. They just don't make $10 million, $15 million, $20 million comedies. And it's kind of sad how the industry has resulted in. It's just it's strange because it's like the Hollywood of the 1950s when you had the studio system that was failing and they were losing lots of money. And then in the late 60s, 70s, all of a sudden you had this resurgence of small independent studios creating all this great stuff with the Steven Spielberg and Scorsese and Lucas coming up with all the movies that we love today in the 70s and 80s. And then the cycle has repeated itself where they all got bought out, and now you're at the big guys, and the big guys are starting to fail and movies are dying again. And so hopefully we get this another resurgence in small independent studios where they allow nobodies to make stuff that hopefully ends up being cult classics.
I think that's kind of the A24 studio right now. That's kind of what they're doing. They've made things like Moonlight and Room and um, Everything Everywhere All at Once and a bunch of other stuff. So like that's kind of the new version. But like
Sure.
you didn't even mention that Orion also produced, and again, this is all leading up to it. Bull Durham, Eight Men Out,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean
Mystic
they did.
River,
I mean they were one of the biggest, like they were like New Line Cinema in the '80s. I mean they
Bill and
were a
Ted's.
major
Bill and
player.
Ted's. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
All right. So, really fun way to kind of wrap up the nerd facts is this connection between Weird Al and also Victoria Jackson. So apparently Victoria Jackson met Kurt Cobain at on SNL, of course, and pretty much connected Cobain to Weird Al because Weird Al wanted to do a parody of "Smells Like Teen Spirit." And quote, this is from Weird Al. He was sweet and he got on like 5 seconds and said, "Of course you can do a parody." Yankovic told Spin Magazine in 2012. The famous quote from him was, Is it going to be a song about food? Because at that point, that's primarily what I was known for. And I said, well, no, it's going to be a song about how nobody can understand your lyrics. And you said, oh, sure, of course. That's funny. And Nirvana remarked that the Weird Al parody was a sign to them they had achieved success as a brand. So thanks, Victoria Jackson, and for Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, and also, of course, for Weird Al for making that amazing song. All right,
Yeah.
last category, nerd thoughts. Is there anything that you want to, I mean, you've shared a lot of thoughts, but is there anything that as you were watching this movie that, um, I don't know, just kind of came up? I'll start with my first question. That's what I mean by this. Is Weird Al a good actor? Question mark.
He's not a bad actor. Honestly, it's like his concerts. Is he a good musician? Well, yeah. If you've ever, I know we discussed this a little before. You've never seen him in concert, but I've seen him three times, and it's funny because every single time I see him is in a larger and larger event. First time was at Six Flags, and the band that opened for him was Crash Test Dummies. If you remember them with the song, which Al parodied with the the headline news with the three news events where he talks about Nancy Kerrigan and the kid who got caned in Malaysia for or Singapore for spray painting cars, and what was the other one? Lorena Bobbitt.
Mhm.
And then I saw him in St. Charles at the Family Arena, and then the last time I saw him was at the Fox, and that's like a cool, legitimate, decent sized theater. And of course, every single time I've seen him, the ticket price has gone from $15 to $40 to over $100. But I will say, I think he did a good job as an actor, but he also does in part because he's a really, really great showman when he's on stage
Yeah.
performing. I mean, the guy is they're not just they're like one of the ultimate cover bands too because they're playing so many songs from so many different genres and eras of music, and he has to tonally adjust to singing a blues song and then a rock song and then a pop song and then something that he made up. And he does multiple costume changes, and they get stormtroopers and Jedi and doing the
Yeah.
line dancing, and he'll like go down into the stands. And he does like One More Minute with You, which is like a crooner type song where he's like singing to a woman, and he'll sing to individual people, and he'll go out into the audience and like pull underwear out of his pocket and stuff and give it to audience members. And so when you think of him as the performer, as somebody who's on stage who's done thousands of shows, it makes sense that you could give him some lines and let him read a script, and he should do okay with it. And I think he does. For somebody who's never acted before in a movie, I think he did a really great job. And it's kind of surprising that he is as earnest as he is, and believable. But he's probably not going to win an Oscar anytime soon.
Well,
But
I think that
yeah,
his best acting chops are when he's doing all his cutscenes and acting like someone else that's acting as opposed to like playing a
sure.
that's the best part of him. Second question is Fran Drescher hot? Because I think she's pretty hot in this movie. This movie.
Oh, totally.
Uh, I don't know
She
why.
she I think she's more attractive in Saturday Night Fever. But
And the nanny and
no,
everything.
I
Yep.
think she was a model at one point. I can't remember, but
Checks out.
she's a pretty lady.
All right. I'm gonna rattle. I'm not rattling off every show because you already did that, but I want to rattle off some, and I just want you to respond with would this or would you green light this show? Okay. Ready?
Me personally, or if I'm a TV executive.
I'm gonna let you decide how you answer each. I'm just gonna name the name of the show, the segment, and you say yes or no. Okay. Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
you can find somebody that magnetic and energetic. I think it would. I think it would do I don't know, TV nowadays. Who knows? But 15, 20 years ago, I could see that on Nickelodeon or NTV or something along those lines.
You know what? Let's change this question. Let's say, would you green light this YouTube channel? Now answer that question.
Oh, sure, Stanley Spadowski. That would be great. A fun
Wheel of
variety show with a
Wheel of
goofball.
Wheel of Fish.
Probably not.
Okay. Secrets of the
It's a
Universe.
great 10-minute segment, 10-second segment, but where do
Secrets
you
of
go
the
with it?
Universe.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Other
Raoul's
than the liability.
Raoul's Wild Kingdom. Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
I'd really want to, but I'd watch it, but I probably wouldn't greenlight it.
How?
However, I would imagine that that would be more likely to appear on YouTube than an actual TV show. I could see that happening on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah, that's fair. Town Talk with George. Already been done?
And in this day and age, no, it's been talk shows are played out.
Yeah. Bowling for Burgers.
Yes,
Strip Solitaire.
absolutely. But depends on who you got playing.
Celebrity mud wrestling, but instead of Gorbachev, I'm going to say Elon Musk.
But let's yes, and it could be a different celebrity every week. I think that would be great.
Yeah. Conan the
I'd watch
Librarian.
it. Probably not.
A little too outdated, maybe.
It's a one. It's a one off. Nobody goes to libraries for books anymore.
Yeah. All right. That's all I had. My second to last thought was
And real quick, I want to interject. Did you ever see the TV show Thundar the Barbarian,
no.
where it was like it was on? I want to say Fox, maybe 5, 7 years ago. But the premise was it's like Tim Meadows is on it. It's set in Cheryl Hines from Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's set in the real world, and the premise is Cheryl Hines at some point had a relationship with this 80s animated character named Thundar the Barbarian, who's like a knockoff of Conan, but he's really a cartoon. And he's a cartoon in the real world. And he comes to visit his illegitimate son that he never sees anymore. And the entire premise, it's like Space Ghosts in terms of like animation and the dry humor.
Mhm.
But that show, I thought it was pretty damn funny, where you take a barbarian and you put him in the real world and hilarity ensues. So they actually legitimately did greenlight Conan the Librarian as Thundar the Barbarian.
If
You
you
should
want
look
to
it up.
if you want to watch this right now, it's available to buy on Prime Video, just so you know. All right. To wrap it up, current final thoughts and current legacy, I guess. What do you think it is? And I can share with you what like Jana's perspective was because she had never heard of this.
I want to hear Jenna's perspective.
She came into the room and was like, well, first of all, I told her I was doing this. She's like, I've never heard of that before in my life. And I said, what? And she's not that much younger than us. Like I mean, she's 4 years younger than us. So she was, eighth grade when we were seniors. So I guess she's a little younger, but or freshmen when we were seniors. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She had never even heard of it and had no clue this was a thing. And now she knows who Weird Al is. So I guess the question is this just movies? Is this a movie that's just been kind of lost to time and like just catches our certain like demographic? Or do people know of this? And I think the answer is no, sadly.
It was never really a thing.
Yeah.
It was a thing within a niche group of people who liked Weird Al in the late '80s and early '90s. And if you got into them later on, like I think especially with newer generations who are so saturated with volume of pop culture and entertainment
Yeah.
and the availability of places to get it, like why would you even think of looking up this movie? And unless you're on a rabbit hole and you're like, I'm going to read about Weird Al on Wikipedia. Oh, he did a movie. I'm going to check that out. And I don't think most people will take the time to look up Weird Al on Wikipedia. Like you might hear about his music, but a movie from 1989 that's very obscure. That and like you might hear like the whole Mike. We didn't get into the Michael Richards kind of scandal bit with his infamous appearance doing stand up in 2006, but that like really hurt his brand, and I think he's since come back from that. But somebody looks that up and they see Michael Richards, they might read that and be like, "Oh, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole."
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah,
not to disparage him.
No, it's true though, and like that was something I meant to touch on, but I kind of just decided to ignore it, just because trying to stay positive for this
No,
podcast.
we don't need to get into it, but he
Yeah, no,
severely damaged his brand and his name, and
no, for sure. But I think though that like it's interesting. Like it was shocking for me to look up Weird Al stuff and realize and see that like some of his most popular songs and albums have come out in the last decade and a half or 2 decades, when I thought it would have been 3 decades ago in the 80s and 90s, and it was not the case. So I don't know. I wonder how relevant Weird Al is now. I think he's still doing a bunch of stuff, and I know that he's definitely embraced like the social media YouTube aspect of it. And honestly, if YouTube had been around when he was really rock and roll in the 80s, 90s, he might be the biggest star in the fucking world. Um, frankly.
or conversely, nobody might have ever heard of him because there would have been
Yeah.
so many other potential people.
Yeah, yeah, I could, yeah, that's fair to say, but I think we can agree that Weird Al has an incredible legacy, and if you're a fan of anything that's to deal with parodies, in that industry, in that world, I think you need to watch UHF immediately because it's an incredible movie.
Agreed. Yeah,
Yeah.
you talk about his popularity now. I was looking up. I haven't heard his last couple albums,
Mhm.
and I was looking up. Which one is it? Apocalypse,
Yeah.
and he's got one called Craigslist, which is a style parody of the Doors, which are like my favorite band. I watched it, and it's like holy shit. They even got Ray Manzarek, the keyboardist, to play keyboards for it before he died, and he is dressed like Jim Morrison, and they do an '80s or a late '60s style Doors music video, and it's like this is one of the better songs I've heard of his I've heard in the last 20 years,
Yeah.
and it's just interesting that he still has that ability to take a style of or genre of music and then create his own little idea behind it and pay perfect homage to the original at the same time.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive. Um, well, that kind of does it. Nerd Outreach. So thank yous, Waka. Thanks for joining, man. This has been a lot of fun. I think this has obviously been a movie on our list, and I didn't want to skip it despite running out of time to cover it in its actual 35th year anniversary.
I can't believe we talked for 2.5 hours about it.
We've been talking for a very long time. But no, I mean, because there's a lot to talk about. And like, if you're into parodies into Weird Al, like, this is such a great film. And like, obviously for us, nostalgia wise, it just means a lot. So, loved having you on, man.
But thank you for having me and humoring me with my choice in film
Oh,
to review on your show.
yeah. Well, you didn't, thank you for saying that, but like, my pleasure. I love learning from you, and love learning about this movie. And, um, I'm excited for when Jana decides to finally watch it, because she will one of these days.
I can't believe she did. You got to give her some shit for that.
I will. I've given her plenty of shit. Um, of course, always you can check us out on all the socials and all the places you stream episodes. Our next episode we'll be covering is we're going to be talking about, and you probably won't like this, Waka, but we're talking about Constantine, which is it's a 25th anniversary of that movie. And
I've seen it.
okay, all right.
I haven't
Lambert,
seen it in a while, but I got nothing against Constantine.
Lambert wants to talk about it. I like the movie. Keanu's great in it. We'll see how it holds up. Haven't watched it in a very long time.
I feel like UHF might be the probably the nerdiest IP or movie that you've watched.
I don't know. It's hard to judge because I don't consider it super nerdy, and but also I'm already no. I mean, maybe it is, but that's not the nerdiest thing we've talked about. But I don't know. It may be up there. It's certainly one of the most obscure things we've talked about. So
I'll give you
hats
that.
off, hats off to you. Well, until next time, everybody. Thanks for listening.
And thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
We doing video?
You don't have
Yeah.
you don't have to. It's more fun that way.
How am I show this? And and the corresponding painting I did in art
Hold
class.
on. You gotta hold that up. Don't move. Yeah. do hold on one more time. I'll take a screen. I'm gonna take a screen.
Well, do one.
Okay.
There's friggin' reflection. That sucks. I can send you some pictures that don't suck.
No, hold them up again. I just did a screenshot. Okay, perfect.
It's got my name on it. It's personalized. It says John.
Correct spelling and all?
I yes, and I'm pretty sure that when I did not do the same service to him when I was 13 years old and I misspelled. I switched my I and E.
What an idiot you are.
Before we get started, I was going to say I have put concerted effort into playing Adventures of Link.
Oh,
I know you love it.
I do love it. It's
And
not my favorite, but it's top three.
if I didn't have the switch option of saving and then being able to rewind frames, I would never play it. It is so excruciatingly, annoyingly, unfairly hard
Yeah, yeah.
with just
I
the boomerang guys and random. And there's no hearts. You can't get health anywhere until you get your healing, and then you got to get magic. And it's like this is not
yeah.
this is not fun. This is stressful.
It takes I have had to have beaten that game. I bet I've beaten it 100 times, and it wasn't until time like 50 where I was like, all right, I'm finally good at this game. I'm not just gonna get fucking killed constantly, constantly. But you got to do things in the exact right order. If you go out of order at all, you are dead. Like if you get kind of wily and you want to go after the what's it called, the fucking the hammer or whatever early, no, you will not survive that forest.
No, I just finally got that. I'm like at the third temple, and I was reading stuff. It's like, get your how to properly upgrade and everything and the proper order. Because apparently, like you can get to a certain point where you just won't be good enough and you can't actually finish the game.
Yeah, yeah, especially when you get to like Temple 6, I think. Um, I think Temple 5 is the hardest one. That's the guy with the big old freaking mace or whatever that he swings. That guy's a dickhead. But anyway, I'm glad you're playing it. Me and you
Well,
just played it.
and what dawned on me, it's like you should do a one of your things on like the Legend of Zelda series.
Hmm, that's a good idea. Yeah,
And they have a movie. They had a movie planned, like it's in development with Nintendo.
well, yeah, after the success of Mario Brothers, for sure. They're probably gonna put every single Nintendo game into a movie at this point.
But you're not quite at four. It'll be 40 years in '86, so
Yeah.
you got a little time.
Do it next year.
Lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by UFOs and forced into weight loss programs. Is that what
No,
happened?
no,
You didn't follow up.
no. You gotta say on the next Nerd Takes.
I thought you were saying that.
No, and then I'll say UHF coming up next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
We'll see this again
you
then.
say that whole line.
Take two.
That was well
Lesbian
done.
Nazi. I have practice.